Speaking of heists, I've been playing a game, another game that
Payday 2?
No, it's a game that has just come out. It just came out a couple of days ago, I think. It's a game called Quadrilateral Cowboy.
Oh.
And like, I don't know if you. I think I talked to you. I can't remember if like we actually discussed it or not, but I've definitely mentioned it.
I did a little bit of reading on it and saw one picture of it. Something about like command prompts.
Yeah, this game
sounds really cool.
I really like this game. Essentially, for those that haven't heard, it's by Blendo Games, who did another game that is very like. There's a lot of talk of like the Blendo universe. Let me just check this quickly. I'm just checking to see what his previous game was, and come on. I can't find it just now, but it was like he's basically done very similar games in the past, like in terms of style. Like Jazz Punk seemed to like borrow very heavily from this guy's style.
Is this the guy that made the game that people said that Jazz Punk was ripping off?
Yes, and that was 30 Flights of Loving. Yes,
that's right. That definitely rings a bell.
Yes.
I always feel bad. I like never played that, and I just played Jazz Punk.
Same. Yeah, I mean, like this is maybe.
I didn't beat it though.
What's that?
I didn't beat it though.
You didn't beat Jazz Punk. Jazz Punk was like an hour and a half or something like that.
I don't know. I got lost. I don't know.
But yeah, so essentially, Quadrilateral Cowboy is a game about hacking. It's got a look to it. It's very, very stylish. It is.
Oh, that cover art is amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of evoking, like, I mean, it's set on the cusp of 1980. I think it's like the first job is literally on New Year's Eve or something like that. And it's like, so essentially you're a hacker who's part of a team that are contracted to perform heists, and those heists involve, like, you know, you've got to get into a building to get some documents or something like that, and essentially, like, you're hacking doors and grates and laser systems by equipping your deck, as it's called, and going into this command prompt thing, like you say, and, like, you know, you're basically typing in kind of in a programming language. You're like, so say for example, there's a camera that's like blocking your way, and so and that camera, like, that camera will show, like, it's called camera 8 or something like that. So what you then do is you go into your deck and type cam8.off, and then there's another element to it where you have to set the amount of time that the camera stays off for. But the, like, you know, a lot of people were saying, like, oh, how do you balance that? Because if you're just, why don't you just put camera 8 off 99999 seconds or whatever? Like, most of these things will have, like, oh, the security alarm will sound if it's off for more than 3 seconds. So what you then do is you turn it off for 3 seconds, and then you have to run through. And sometimes, like, the challenge of the game kind of ramps up when you start doing, like, you have these kind of gauntlets of kind of cameras and stuff like that, where you're having to, like, okay, camera off, camera 1 dot off, and then 3 seconds, then you're doing a semicolon, and then wait, you know, so it's like you're kind of just typing out this kind of sequence of events that you want to happen, and then just, like, having the program, like, execute that for you. And it's like, you feel like it's very difficult to get into it first if you haven't got any experience in, like, proper programming or whatever. But it's like the language is simple enough that you get used to it very quickly, and yeah, man, it's you end up just feeling like this kind of, like, total, like, spy hacker kind of thing, and it's
loving all the hacking games coming out lately.
Yeah, man, it's great. It's like, but this just has like such a kind of look and feel to it. Like I would describe it, like someone described it as being very reminiscent of like South American magical realism in a way, where it's like you have these kind of real world like scenarios and kind of settings and stuff, but there's like something off about them. There is something like that is just treated as like normal. Like it's just the little things in this world are like it's you know I like I'm kind of like I'm losing track of what I want to say about it, because like again, like Hitman, I can't really say enough good things about it. What I will say is that sometimes it runs pretty badly, and there's like a few bugs here and there that kind of required restarts at some points, but that's like there. But when you're talking about like things that are potentially as complicated as like, you know, there are things that like after each job that you do, you go to a shop that's run by a cat who's wearing Rasta hat, and he gives you he gives you like upgrades and stuff, and like as you go on, you start to collect this kind of arsenal of like there's a kind of a walking drone thing that you get that you like you put the deck down, the console that you hack from, then you need to put down a CCTV monitor, and then you put down the Weevil, as it's called, the kind of walking drone thing. You put the drone down in, and then you have to connect it to the CCTV console, so you're seeing the camera feed from the Weevil, and then you're like typing in like go 50, and then it will go forward 50, and then you're like turn 90, and it'll turn 90 degrees to the right, and then you're like navigating it through this kind of maze, for example. And like as you go on, it starts to kind of introduce new mechanics and new like new upgrades, and also like it starts doing some really interesting things in terms of how you case a joint, you know, like how you kind of like get a feel for the job, and then you send like how you switch between people with different abilities and stuff, and yeah, it just ends up becoming this kind of like really great kind of ballet of just kind of there's a weird tension to it, but it's also got this really cartoony style that kind of makes it feel very gamey. And yeah, man, it's really good. What I will say is that one of the best features about it is that you can go to any level at any time, and that is great, because I got stuck on like the third level and it was just
I saw you post about that.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just a particular gadget that you get very early on that I just wasn't sure about how I used, and then I was stuck on it for about like half an hour, and then I just realized, oh wait, no, I can go to any level I want, and I went to the next level, and that was focused on a completely different piece of equipment, so I was able to get a feel for that, and I was able to do that really well. And so like I still felt like I was making progress through the game. Like I still felt, you know, like I was able to kind of make myself feel like this kind of badass hacker guy, and yeah, it's like it's just a really kind of accessible way to approach difficulty in a game, where it's like if you're not feeling this, then there's a lot of other things that you can do that kind of have the same kind of core theme, but are mechanically and kind of, you know, aesthetically very different. And so it's constantly changing things up, and like yeah, it's just, I've talked a lot about this fucking game.
No, I'm really interested in this one. Like, I've just been like fucking listening because I know like next to nothing.
It's a game.
It looks really fucking cool. It's like, oh god, it looks really cool.
It's a game that like me talking about it in terms of its mechanics can't really do it too much justice, because it's so much more than its mechanics. It's like the atmosphere that it creates, the kind of weird magical realistic world that it inhabits, and it's a game that like if you like the kind of world design of things like jazz punk, or if you've played like 30 Flights of Loving or whatever, and you like this guy's style, then you need to check this out, because it's definitely like, from what I've heard, this seems to be like the most fully realized game that he's created. And it's like there's a kind of time trial element to it all as well, and yeah, man, it's so you're constantly like wanting to go back and like, you know, like the first time you're kind of like fumbling your way through trying to like find like the right piece of equipment to use, and then when you go back to a previous level, you're like you're just like racing through it, and you're like, you feel like, oh man, I know these systems inside out, you know, like, and yeah, man, it's really, really cool. So yeah, definitely recommend it. But yeah.